living in hopeless poverty, constantly on the brink of survival, enduring humiliation, insults, reproaches, when you are guilty only of being poor and having no money, and not of having done something bad to someone. This is terrible. In our society, poor people are treated with great contempt, and if you have ever been in the shoes of a poor person, you know what hell it is. People are cruel to those who are weaker than them, and poverty, and destitution, extreme poverty, certainly testifies to human weakness. A beggarly existence, elevated to the rank of the norm, when there is no white light in sight at the end of the tunnel. This, my friends, is lack of money. And this lack of money leads people to a state of hopelessness and despair, when they no longer believe in themselves, in tomorrow, and especially in a better life. I don't want those of you who live in poverty, and I grew up in poverty, to give up on yourself and your life. I want you to fight for a place in the sun, to believe in yourself and strive for a better life. So this article will talk about how to get rid of lack of money. If you can't get a high-paying job, if you can't earn large sums of money, if you are constantly in debt and barely make ends meet, then remember, this is not a sentence or a punishment from above. It's just that in the lives of different people, circumstances can develop differently, due to various reasons. Someone is luckier, someone is less, but one way or another, each of us can find ourselves in a difficult financial situation. It is much worse when you have seen nothing but poverty since childhood. This is really hard, because psychology, thinking, and in general a person's worldview in this case are formed based on his life experience, which in this case is negative. The brains of a poor person are, indeed, his punishment, and even if a person has more money in life, if he somehow comes to a rich life, he will still have to drive the poor out of his head for a very long time. Some people I personally know spent months going to a psychologist to reprogram their brains, because their poor mentality prevented them from living a full life. If you are poor in your soul, if your self-doubt follows you everywhere, then even a lot of money will not make you a full person, because your thinking will always revolve around the insults and humiliations you experienced as a beggar. I believe that it is with reprogramming the brain that a person needs to start getting rid of lack of money, and not end with it, turning to psychologists for help, because much more often people with the right brains come to money, than with the help of money make themselves the right brains. You will earn money in many ways. This is not a problem for a smart person, and a very smart person does not even need to strain himself especially for money, because he is surrounded by many fools whom he can use for his own purposes and in many ways to get rich at their expense. But if you are not very smart, but suddenly a lot of money came to you, this sometimes happens, very rarely, but it happens, then even being in an expensive suit and sitting behind the wheel of a prestigious car, inside you will remain a beggar, and all your behavior will speak about it. From the outside, believe me, a poor person at heart is immediately visible, and it does not matter how he presents himself to society. You can't fool smart people with cheap show-offs, because for more or less literate people he is all, as if on the palm of your hand. And the attitude towards a poor person will be appropriate, which can in no way be called respectful. It is very easy to trick a poor person at heart into doing anything, taking him, so to speak, on a show-off, because a poor person needs to prove his significance to society. He needs recognition, respect, admiration, glory like air. A rich person at heart does not need all this. That is why the so-called world behind the scenes does not chase any glory. What the hell does it need recognition from a brainless, from its point of view, crowd? You know, dear readers, I usually try to compare my point of view on something with the point of view of other people, so before writing this article, I ran through the internet and looked at what other people think about such a problem as lack of money. This topic, after all, is important, because many people in our society live quite modestly, and some even live below the poverty line. As always, in addition to really smart thoughts, I found absolutely crazy thoughts on the vastness of the World Wide Web, which, apparently, will always have someone to spread. Some people consider their beggarly existence to be a consequence of some kind of curse imposed on them and seriously think about acquiring all sorts of amulets and other nonsense, which, in their opinion, should help them improve their lives. Friends, I would really like for my articles to be read mainly by adequate people, because inadequate people will not get any benefit from my articles at all, and I am, after all, not only a materialist, but also an idealist, and I really try to teach my readers something. So, there are no curses and other nonsense that all sorts of healers, witches, sorcerers, fortune-tellers, and other evil spirits who do not want to work, but want to brainwash gullible and suggestible people, fill our heads with. No. Forget once and for all about all these curses and other nonsense. There is no mysticism in poverty. Do not let them fool you. If you live in poverty, then your situation can be explained by completely natural things, for example, the lack of a good education, the lack of useful experience, the presence of an inadequate worldview and similar things. And all these sorcerers and sorceresses can cast spells as much as they want, casting various curses on you or someone else that will never work. You shouldn't pay attention to all this nonsense. So if you think that you have a curse on lack of money, that someone has cast a curse on you, rest assured that you are deeply mistaken. Do not fill your head with all sorts of nonsense, and do not feed all these idlers in the person of magicians, sorcerers, healers, fortune-tellers, and other such smart guys who profit from people's ignorance. We live in the 21st century. We can find a pattern in almost everything, if we try, including our deplorable financial situation and any other problems. Do not think about how to remove lack of money. Think about why some people have money and others do not. You need to see the whole picture, and not just some separate fragment of it. Then you will understand why certain events happen in this life, why someone lives one life and someone else another. Everything in this world works according to the laws of nature, according to God's laws, or according to the laws of the universe. In general, call and understand these laws as you wish, but they exist and they are unshakable. If someone is poor and someone is rich, then this can be explained quite rationally, and if this explanation is constantly sought and found in order to know what and how to do in order to change something, then it will be possible to influence the course of things in this life. For example, my father worked all his life at a factory where the attitude towards ordinary workers was always bad, and their salaries were always small. Because of this, normal, educated people did not go to work at the factory, because they understood perfectly well that there was nothing to catch there. Although, it is true, some had to and have to do this, work at the factory, but smart people still try to avoid this terrible place. In other words, smart people understand that working at an unprofitable job, you will never live normally, that poverty is directly related to the place where you live and the activity you are engaged in, and all this together indicates how smart or how stupid a person you are. But my father naively believed that his poverty was not related to his place of work and not to himself, but to what kind of man officially stands at the helm of the country. Well, do you understand that it is simply stupid and pointless to rely on the authorities and expect something from them? It doesn't matter at all who we call president, czar, general secretary, emperor, or leader, because our life is our life, and no one else cares about it. We, and no one else, should be doing it. And some professions, they simply have never been respected, are not respected, and will not be respected, because there are plenty of people capable of doing them. Well, tell me, can you pay a big salary to the same janitor, or rather, why do it at all, if even the most illiterate and even insane person can master this profession? After all, any fool can sweep with a broom, right? That's why they don't pay janitors a big salary and many others don't get paid, including doctors, whose work not every fool can do, but they still don't get paid, because they are not needed. You have to accept this reality and understand that you need to do something in life for which you will be paid a lot of money, then you will always have money. And no lack of money will poison your life, that's obvious. So, speaking about getting rid of poverty, we should talk about what we should do to earn good money, and not about all sorts of curses and all sorts of devilry. In general, a very good remedy for poverty is learning something new. No, seriously, I can confirm this with my own experience and the experience of many other people who initially lived in poverty and then came to a completely decent life. You see, our parents do not always think about how their children will live. They will whittle the children, somehow provide them with some clothes and food, but they do not think at all about their education, as well as about their upbringing. This remark of mine does not apply to all parents, of course, but, nevertheless, such cases are not rare. I know a lot of examples when parents absolutely do not care about their children, they do not take care of them at all, do not teach them, do not educate them, do not prepare them for life in any way. And naturally, their children often grow up as insecure losers, with a bunch of complexes and very little knowledge about this world. They have no idea how to earn good money, not to mention full-fledged success, when a person climbs to the very top of the social pyramid. You say, what about school? It teaches children, it gives them knowledge. Tell me, friends, how many excellent school students have succeeded in life? Those excellent students with whom I studied and about whom I heard, for the most part, did not achieve anything significant in life, and some of them became losers who found themselves in far from the most lucrative and prestigious jobs. What can I say? Some people with 2 higher educations work in factories, and for the same beggarly wages as the last drunkard who often ends up there. Education can be different, it can be incomplete and can be fundamentally wrong, and meanwhile, real grades are given to us not by teachers, but by life. Therefore, in order not to be poor, you need to be not just kind of smart, but a truly smart person. You need to learn the right things, which I have already written about many times in my previous articles. I recommend you read them, by the way. It is very good to be a manager, a good manager, as well as a financier, an economist, a good psychologist is profitable, a sociologist, a salesperson, in the broad sense of the word, in general. In this world it is profitable to work with people and money. Now they say that programmers, IT specialists, engineers, and some other professions will be in great demand not only in the present, but also in the near future. But all this is nonsense, believe me. Today they will slap together these specialists, and tomorrow they will start throwing even the best of them, as has happened with us more than once, and abroad. Not everyone will be lucky enough to get a job where good specialists are highly valued. Here marketers and all sorts of advertisers PR people will be in demand for a very long time, unless of course we return to a planned economy, in which there is nothing to advertise. Journalists, I also think, will be in demand. After all, in the modern information world someone needs to brainwash society. All sorts of advisors and thinkers will always be in demand, but in small numbers, because there are not many people in our society who are capable of listening to wise advice. In general, the more you understand people, the better, or money, if you understand, that is also very good. Look, all these Rothschilds and Rockefellers, they understood money well and, as you can see, they got rich beyond measure. And the most important thing is that it will always be necessary to understand people and money. Maybe some professions will be abolished, because accountants are already being replaced by computer programs, but if you think more broadly, then everything connected with money cannot be completely transferred to the control of a computer, because money was created by people and for people. It is a means of deception, and a means of controlling people, and a means of domination over people. In general, money cannot live honestly, and therefore cannot be controlled by computers, which count everything too honestly. And what is also very important, to which I would like to draw your attention, is the use of the knowledge you have about people and money. You see, learning something, including the skills I listed, is not necessary in order to sell your ass to a stranger, but in order to control other people, through ideological influence on the minds and hearts of people, or through influence on them through money. Therefore, classical education must be supplemented with a special, non-standard education, which is not usually talked about, but which can be obtained either by yourself, through self-education, or under the guidance of wise people who understand life. In general, I will raise this topic in my future articles. Because such a concept as special education means nothing to most of you. For now, I will only say that the purpose of this education is the ability to control people and have power over them. And you yourself, based on the most striking examples from life, draw conclusions about who has this education in our society, and how it is used by these people. I personally see that violence and lies feed a person much better than honesty and kindness. However, if you hold a different point of view, you don't have to listen to my opinion at all. I have long been convinced that the main reason for lack of money, and not only lack of money, but also many other bad things, is the lack of normal, I emphasize, normal, full-fledged, quality education. There are certain rules of the game in this world, playing by which, you will always have money, and if you also play by these rules very successfully, that is, literally breaking them, then you are guaranteed to have a lot of money. But, firstly, you need to be able to play by these rules, and be able to not follow them, and secondly, you need to know about them in general in order to play by them. And how will a person know about these rules, who has been instilled with all sorts of nonsense since childhood, far from the truth, who has been painted an unrealistic picture of the world since childhood and taught to live in a way that is beneficial not to him, but to someone else? A person goes out into life, begins to play by the rules by which he was taught to play, and constantly loses. He is indignant, angry, offended, appeals to justice, tries to understand why he can't do something, why he is poor, why some people have everything, and he has nothing and can't find answers to his questions. An inadequate picture of the world in a person's head forces him to commit inadequate actions, which lead either to insignificant results, or even to mistakes. Therefore, if you are tired of lack of money and you want to change your life, for the better, of course, you need to admit that you are seriously missing something in this life, and most likely, you are missing a lot. Well, so that you can catch up with everything you need to catch up with, I created this site. Read it and over time you will understand a lot of what will help you make your life better. In the meantime, if you don't have money, don't worry about it, but someone else does, who for now, mind you, for now, lives well, including at your expense. After all, if something is decreasing somewhere, it means that it is increasing somewhere. If someone doesn't have something, it means that someone else has it. In our case, that something is money. Nobody will take special care of our material well-being. Don't even count on it. You understand, nobody in this world needs us to be rich and successful, because rich people have very big appetites, and if there are many of them in this world, then society simply won't feed them. That's why they don't teach people how to get rich, they don't even teach how to live a normal life, because it's not that far from a normal life to a rich life. What the hell does the world need a large number of rich people for? If being a rich person is basically impossible, if there aren't a large number of poor people around you, at whose expense, in fact, people become rich and against whose background they are rich. So, friends, figure it out yourselves, with your own minds, otherwise you won't escape poverty. If it so happened that your parents didn't care about you, if they didn't take care of your education and upbringing, then all you can do is take care of yourself, with or without help from others. One thing I can tell you for sure is that complete lack of money can be easily overcome by any person if he does not think about money all the time, but grabs his head and tries to change his life on a fundamental ideological level. Give up everything old and think about the new. You need a fundamentally new view of this world, because if you are poor now, then all your views on life and all your beliefs, your entire worldview are wrong. Accept this fact, do not be afraid of it, understand that you are incorrectly programmed, and if you are not reprogrammed, not only will you not escape from lack of money, not only will you not get rich, you will not even realize what kind of world you live in and who you are. Well, our awareness of this life and ourselves in it is not an easy task, especially in our time, when our brains are pounded from all sides with all sorts of hostile information for us. Well, that's life, you need to be able to survive in it and be able to live. And with money, problems can arise for everyone. I remember I already said this, therefore, each of us needs to prepare for the blows of fate. Sometimes it happens that at first everything was fine for a person, his affairs were going uphill, everything worked out, there was a lot of money, and then bam, and everything was cut off, the money disappeared and life got worse. Well, you know, a crisis can begin when many people lose all their savings and work. Other unpleasant things in a person's life can happen. In a word, fate can present us with various surprises, for which we must definitely be prepared. Thinking about how to survive lack of money and improve your life, remember the main thing about yourself. To hell with all these crises, all these economic shocks, all this social instability and other bad things, because of which we can, and periodically have, problems with money. Believe in yourself, and everything will be fine with you. You can survive any difficulties, you can get out of any hole if you do not lose faith in yourself. Never and under no circumstances should you become weak, you cannot be weak in this cruel world. Of course, I understand that we quickly get used to good things, and if something throws us off track, it is difficult for us to recover, it is difficult to get up from our knees, because of habit. But all this is nonsense, any problems only temper our character and develop our thinking, so if it so happens that problems with money have appeared in your life, just look at them, at these problems, as a game in which you need to solve a certain problem. And you will solve it, I assure you. The main thing for you is to overcome the emotions that betray you in order to give the brain the opportunity to fully work on solving an important problem. When I myself did not yet know how to get rid of the lack of money from which I suffered by the will of fate since childhood, I naively believed that being poor was my destiny. Can you imagine, such idiotic thoughts wandered in my head, what a destiny, no way. We determine our destiny ourselves, even despite the strong influence of various environmental factors on us. Something always influences us and someone influences us, so what, should we now refer to all this, removing all responsibility for our life? I think this is somehow impractical. It is better to look confidently to the future, feeding this confidence with the right actions in the present, which I wrote about above, and then any problems will be heroically overcome by us. If you are poor as a church mouse, this does not mean that it will always be like this. I also grew up in poverty and hated the whole world for the injustice reigning in it, and I also hated myself for my wretchedness and weakness. But you know what? Life does not stand still, and over time, if we do not forget about ourselves, we become better, smarter, more cunning, stronger. And yesterday's problems no longer seem like problems to us, because we feel that we can solve them. We have intellectual resources for this, our main strength and self-confidence. I hope that you will follow my simple and understandable, and most importantly, easy to implement advice, and will not give up, will not give in. But instead, start learning how to make money in ways that are beneficial to you, in order to get rid of poverty with dignity. I believe that anyone can learn how to trade, and if you learn how to sell, no matter what, you will never be left without money. For more complicated tricks, of course, you need a good education, for which you may not have the time or money. Well, do what you can do at the moment, learn to do something that is not so difficult for you today, but for which they pay very good money, for example, learn to sell. At least, thanks to this skill, you will sell your work for normal money, and will not work for a humiliating salary. Personally, this is how I started earning more or less normal money, with the ability to sell. And now, despite all sorts of problems in the world, in the country, and in my personal life, I feel quite confident. I don't have so much money to spread my fingers like a fan, but enough, at least enough for now. How it will be in the future, time will tell. And now, I will help whoever I can and in whatever way I can, with my website, my articles, my services, if not get rich, although who knows how far you will go, then at least significantly improve your financial situation. Friends, read my articles, don't be lazy. I write in them about everything I know myself, without inventing or making up anything. Everything in them, so to speak, is from life. Everything has been tested and verified by my personal experience and the experience of other people. And boldly look to the future, everything will be fine with you.